In the beginning, God. Not in the beginning, matter. Not in the beginning, energy. Not in the beginning, biological process. In the beginning, God. Genesis 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But here is what most people miss when they read those opening words of Scripture. The creation described in Genesis, the heavens, the earth, the light, the waters, the land, the creatures, was not God's first act. Before creation, there was counsel. Proverbs 8 gives us a window into what existed before the first day of creation. Wisdom, speaking in the voice of a person, says this. Proverbs 8, verse 22 to 23. The Lord brought me forth as the first of his works, before his deeds of old. I was formed long ages ago, at the very beginning when the world came to be. And then verse 27 to 30. I was there when he set the heavens in place, when he marked out the horizon on the face of the deep, when he established the clouds above and fixed securely the fountains of the deep. I was there beside him as a master craftsman. Before the heavens were set in place, there was already something. There was already counsel. There was already wisdom. There was already intentional design. God did not create on impulse. He created from a plan that existed before the creation itself. And included in that plan, from before the foundation of the world, was every human life that would ever exist. Ephesians 1, verse 4. For he chose us in him before the creation of the world. Before the creation of the world. Not after Adam was formed, not after Eve was made, not after the first human child was born. Before the world existed, God had already chosen, already known, already loved. The book of Jubilees expands on this, describing how in the heavenly council before creation, God laid out the full plan of human history, every generation, every nation, every life, all of it known, all of it purposed, all of it loved before a single star was hung in the sky. Now think about what this means for where babies come from. If God knew every human life before the foundation of the world, then the arrival of a baby in this world is not the beginning of that life. It is the entry point of a life that was already known in eternity. The womb is not where the story starts. The womb is where heaven touches earth. The womb is where the eternal becomes visible. The womb is where what God knew before time steps into time for the first time. Every baby that enters this world is eternity arriving on schedule. And that truth, hidden in the ancient scrolls, changes everything about how we see human life. Every child is not an accident of biology. Every child is a deliberate act of an eternal God who planned that life before the world he placed it in even existed.
Before we go any further, I want to speak directly to you. If you have been watching this channel and you have never subscribed, I am asking you today, please subscribe. Hit that like button and turn on the notification bell. Every week we go deeper into the hidden scrolls of Scripture, and every week someone tells me this channel changed how they see God. I do not want you to miss the next revelation. Please support what God is doing here. Like, subscribe, turn on the bell, and let us continue, because what comes next in this story is the part that has been hidden for thousands of years. Now we come to the moment when the eternal plan of God first became physical reality, the creation of the first human being. And I want you to read this moment not as a simple origin story, but as the template, the pattern, the blueprint for every human life that has ever followed. Genesis 2, verse 7. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Two actions, one being. God formed the body from dust. God breathed the spirit from himself. The Hebrew word for formed here is yatsar, the same word used for a potter shaping clay. Deliberate, skilled, intentional, not random, not accidental, the action of a craftsman who knows exactly what he is making. And then God breathed. The Hebrew word for breath here is neshama, and this is where the hidden scrolls open something extraordinary. Neshama does not simply mean air. Neshama refers to the very breath, the very essence of God himself, deposited into human form. The ancient rabbinical writings describe the neshama as the highest and most divine aspect of the human soul, the part that comes directly from God, the part that carries the fingerprint of heaven, the part that is, in its very nature, eternal. And here is what is critical. The neshama did not originate at the moment of Adam's creation. The book of Jubilees tells us that God created the spirits of all human beings on the first day before he created the physical world. Spirit before matter, soul before body, the inner life before the outer form. This means Adam's neshama, the divine breath breathed into him in the garden, already existed. It was not created fresh in that moment. It was released from God's keeping into the physical form prepared to receive it. And the ancient text of Enoch confirms this, describing the realm where souls exist in God's presence before they are sent into bodies, a treasury of souls, a sacred keeping place where the lives of all human beings wait in the care of God for their appointed time. Now, look at what happened the moment the neshama entered Adam. Genesis 2 verse 7 says, "The man became a living being." The Hebrew is nefesh chaya, a living soul, not a living body, a living soul. The body was already formed before the breath, but it only became truly alive, truly human, when the divine breath entered. This is the pattern for every human life. The body forms through natural process, but what makes that forming sacred, what makes that life truly alive, is the neshama that God sends from his own presence into every single child that enters this world. Biology explains the body. Only God explains the soul. And it is the soul, breathed from the eternal presence of God, that is the true answer to where babies really come from.
There is a scroll, written by a shepherd who became a king, that contains perhaps the most breathtaking description of what God does inside the womb ever recorded in human history. It is Psalm 139, written by David. And it is not poetry dressed up as theology. It is revelation, a direct window into the secret work of God in the hidden place of the womb. Verse 13, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." You created my inmost being. The Hebrew word here is kilia, which literally refers to the innermost parts, the kidneys, but used poetically to mean the deepest, most hidden center of a person, the seat of emotion, the core of identity. God did not just build the outer form, he created the innermost being, the personality, the temperament, the emotional life, the unique inner world of this specific person, unlike any other person who has ever lived. And then you knit me together. The Hebrew word is sakak, to weave, to interweave, to cover. The image of a master weaver working with threads so fine and so complex that no human hand could ever replicate the pattern. David is saying, God, you were inside that womb. You were not watching biology run its course from a distance. You were working, actively,
personally, intricately, weaving together every thread of who I am. Verse 14, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully, the Hebrew yare, meaning something so extraordinary it produces holy awe in the one who encounters it. Wonderfully, pala, meaning set apart, distinguished, unique, marked as extraordinary. Not wonderfully in a general sense, wonderfully in the sense of there has never been anything quite like this before, and there never will be again. Every baby knitted in the womb is a one-of-a-kind original, a creation so unique, so specifically crafted that the appropriate response to it is holy awe. Verse 15, my frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. The secret place, the hidden place, the womb. In the ancient Hebrew understanding, the womb was sacred ground. It was the place where heaven and earth met, where the eternal entered the temporal, where God did his most intimate work, hidden from human eyes, but fully visible to him. And then verse 16, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. Your eyes saw my unformed body. The Hebrew word is golem, the formless embryonic substance at the very earliest stage of existence, before features, before form, before any human recognition. And God says, even then, my eyes were on you. Even in that golem stage, every day of your life was already written, already known, already ordained. The womb is not a biological chamber. According to the ancient scroll of Psalm 139, the womb is the most holy workshop in all of creation, and God is always in it. Now the ancient scrolls take us to a revelation even deeper than the womb, because Psalm 139 tells us God was present and active inside the womb. But Jeremiah tells us something that goes beyond even that. God knew before the womb. Jeremiah 1, verses 4 and 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. 3 declarations, each one more staggering than the last. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Formation, birth, appointment. All 3 established before any of them happened. Before the biological process of formation even began, God already knew Jeremiah. The Hebrew word for knew is yada, and this is not casual knowledge. Yada is the deepest form of knowing in the Hebrew language, intimate, personal, relational. The knowing of one who has spent time with another. The knowing of one who sees completely and loves completely. God is saying, before your body existed, before your mother knew she was pregnant, before any human being on earth had any awareness of you, I already had a relationship with you. I already knew who you were. I already loved you. And then I set you apart. The Hebrew is kadash, to sanctify, to make holy, to designate as belonging to God for a specific purpose. Before birth, Jeremiah was already sanctified, already designated, already holy, already belonging to God for a reason that the world would one day see. And then I appointed you. Natan, to give, to assign, to place. Before Jeremiah was born, God had already given him his assignment. The work was ready before the worker arrived. The calling was written before the person came to answer it. Now, is this only true of prophets? Is this only true of the specially called? Look at what the scroll says about others. Isaiah 49, verse 1.
Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb he has spoken my name. From my mother's womb he spoke my name. He did not wait until Isaiah could respond. He spoke the name before Isaiah could hear it. He declared the identity before the person arrived to claim it. Galatians 1 verse 15, Paul writes, God who set me apart from my mother's womb and called me by his grace. 3 men, 3 different centuries, 3 different callings, all 3 saying the same thing. God knew before the womb. God called before the birth. God named before the first breath. This is not coincidence. This is the consistent testimony of the ancient scrolls across 1,000 years of human history. Every soul was known in God before it was known on earth. Every baby arriving in this world was already named in heaven long before it was named by its parents.
Now we go deeper into the scrolls that most people have never heard read from a pulpit, the Book of Enoch. Enoch, the 7th from Adam, the man of whom Genesis 5 verse 24 says, Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away. He did not die. God simply took him, translated him from earth to heaven while he was still alive. And in heaven, Enoch was shown things. The Book of Enoch, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls and quoted directly by the Apostle Jude in your New Testament, records what Enoch saw. And what he saw included the realm where human souls exist before they enter the bodies prepared for them on earth. Enoch describes being taken through the heavenly realms by the angel Uriel, and in those realms he sees the place where the spirits of human beings are kept, a treasury, a sacred chamber, where souls wait in the presence of God for their appointed time of sending. This is not a fringe idea invented by a single text. It appears consistently across multiple ancient writings that predate the modern church by thousands of years. The ancient Jewish text, known as Tu Baruch, another apocalyptic text from the Dead Sea period, describes God saying, "A person is not born before the number of his time has been appointed." The number of his time, appointed before the birth. The ancient rabbinical text, known as the Talmud, compiled from centuries of Jewish scholarly tradition, records this teaching in Tractate Nida. The angel in charge of conception takes a drop and places it before God and asks, "What shall this become? Strong or weak, wise or foolish, rich or poor?" Before the body is fully formed, the destiny is being spoken over it by God. The Book of Jubilees, also found at Qumran among the Dead Sea Scrolls, tells us that on the first day of creation, God created not only the heavens and earth, but also the spirits of all human beings, created on day 1, before the physical world was even fully formed. Spirit before matter, soul before body, the inner life before the outer form. And then, across all the days of human history, God releases those spirits one by one, each at its appointed time, each into the specific body prepared for it, each carrying the purpose written over it before it ever entered the world. This is where the scroll of Psalm 139 makes perfect sense. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How could the days be written before the person existed unless the person already existed somewhere in God's keeping before the days began? The ancient scrolls are consistent. The testimony is clear. Every baby born into this world is a soul sent from the treasury of heaven at the appointed time by God. Biology begins the body, but God sent the soul long before biology had anything to work with.
Now, the ancient scrolls show us something that the modern world, with all its biological explanations, has never been able to fully account for: the miraculous births.
Because if babies came only from biology, then how do you explain Sarah? How do you explain Hannah? How do you explain Elizabeth? These are not myths, these are not legends, these are historical records preserved in the most carefully authenticated collection of ancient documents in human history, and they all tell the same story. God holds the womb. God opens what is closed. God sends life where biology said life was impossible. Let us go to the scrolls. Genesis 21, verses 1 and 2. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised. At the very time God had promised, not when biology permitted, not when circumstances aligned, at the very time God had spoken. Sarah was 90 years old. Her womb had been closed for 9 decades, and God opened it, not because of any human intervention, but because he had spoken a promise, and his word does not return to him empty. Genesis 30, verse 22. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and enabled her to conceive. God remembered Rachel. In the Hebrew understanding, God remembering does not mean he had forgotten. It means the appointed time had arrived. God turned his full attention to her situation, and he acted. He enabled her to conceive. The Hebrew word is patach, to open, to unlock, to release. God opened what had been closed. He unlocked what biology had sealed. He released life where no life was expected. 1 Samuel 1, verse 19 and 20. Early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. The Lord remembered her. Again the appointed time arrived, and Samuel entered the world, not because Hannah's biology suddenly changed, but because God, who holds every womb in his hands, decided the time had come to release the soul he had prepared into the body he had kept waiting. And then Luke 1, verse 36 and 37. The angel Gabriel speaking to Mary, "Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month, for no word from God will ever fail." No word from God will ever fail. Not biology can sometimes be overcome. Not medical miracles do happen. No word from God will ever fail. The ancient scrolls are telling us, from Genesis to Luke, across 2,000 years of recorded history, the womb belongs to God. Every birth is his decision. Every life is his sending. And no biological barrier has ever successfully stood between God and the life he decided to release into the world.
Now we must open the scroll that is the hardest to read. Because everything we have said so far is glorious. Souls known before the foundation of the world, God weaving each life in the secret place, divine purpose written before the first breath. But then, someone watching this is holding a question they may have never said out loud. What about the babies born into pain? What about the children who arrive into abuse? What about the infants born into illness? What about the lives that begin in poverty and suffering? If God is sending every soul with divine purpose, why do so many souls arrive into darkness? The ancient scrolls do not avoid this question. They face it directly. John chapter 9, the disciples bring the question to Jesus himself. A man sits begging by the road, born blind, from his first breath without sight. The disciples asked, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" They assumed the ancient assumption. Suffering at birth means divine punishment. A difficult beginning means God turned away. And Jesus answered them, verse 3,
Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Neither this man nor his parents sinned. With one sentence, Jesus dismantled the entire framework that connected difficult birth to divine rejection. And then he said something that the scrolls have been building toward. This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. The difficult beginning was not the absence of God's plan. It was part of God's plan, a plan with a depth and a purpose that the man himself could not see from inside the suffering. And then Jesus healed him, and the man who was born blind became one of the most powerful witnesses to Christ in all of the gospel accounts. His entire life, including the years of blindness, became the testimony. The scroll of Romans 8 verse 28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things, not comfortable things, all things. The scroll of Isaiah 55 verse 8 and 9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." The ancient scrolls are not telling us that God causes suffering. They are telling us that God is present in it, working through it, redeeming it, writing a story with it that human eyes cannot read from inside the chapter. No baby arrives by accident. No soul is sent without purpose. No life, however it begins, falls outside the knowledge and care of the God who wrote every day before any of them came to be. The womb of suffering is still the womb of God, and what he begins, he completes.
Now, the ancient scrolls speak directly to you, not to Israel, not to the prophets, not to history, to you, sitting here, right now, watching this. Because everything we have uncovered today, every ancient text, every hidden scroll, every biblical declaration, was not just about Jeremiah and Isaiah and Hannah and Samuel. It was about every human life that has ever been breathed into existence by the God who holds all souls in his hands, including yours. Psalm 139 verse 13 was written about you. "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." God was in that womb. When you were being formed, he was there. Not watching, working, knitting together every thread of who you are, your personality, your capacity, your gifting, your nature, all of it woven by divine hands in the secret place. Jeremiah 1 verse 5 was written about you. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before your mother knew she was pregnant, God already knew you. Before your father heard the news, God had already named you. Before the world had any idea you were coming, you were already known in eternity." Isaiah 49 verse 1 was written about you. "Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, he has spoken my name." He spoke your name from the womb. Before you could hear it, before you could answer, he already spoke it. And Ephesians 1 verse 4 was written about you. He chose us in him before the creation of the world. Before the world existed, you were chosen. Before the stars were hung, you were known. Before the first day of creation dawned, God had already purposed the life that would one day arrive through the specific womb of the specific woman he chose to bring you through. You were not an accident, not a biological coincidence, not an unexpected development, not an unplanned event that the universe stumbled into by chance. You were a deliberate act of an eternal God who planned your arrival before the world you arrived in even existed.
The ancient scrolls have been saying this for thousands of years, hidden in clay jars in desert caves, preserved through empires and catastrophes and centuries, waiting for you to hear it. You are the hidden scroll. Your life is the ancient text that God wrote before time began and has been unfolding ever since. Every day you have lived was already written in His book before any of them came to be. Every gift you carry was placed in you by the same hands that knit you in the secret place. Every purpose stirring in your heart was spoken over you by the same voice that spoke the world into existence. You came from God, you were sent by God, and you will return to God. That is where babies really come from.
So let us seal this scroll. The question we opened with today, where do babies really come from, has one answer. One ancient, one eternal, one unchanging answer that has been written in the scrolls since before the world began. They come from God. Not God in a distant general sense, not God as a passive observer of biological process, but God, the creator of every soul, the knitter of every life in the secret place, the one who spoke every name from the womb, the one who wrote every day before any of them came to be, the one who holds the treasury of souls and releases each one at the appointed time into the specific body He prepared for it, through the specific family He chose for it, in the specific moment He ordained for it. Before biology, there was God. Before conception, there was knowing. Before the womb, there was love. Before the first breath, there was purpose. And after the last breath, there is eternity. Because the same God who breathed the neshama, His own divine breath, into the first human being in the garden, breathes that same sacred breath into every child that enters this world. You did not begin at birth. You began in the mind of God before the foundation of the world, and you will not end at death, because what God breathed into you came from eternity, and to eternity it will return. The ancient scroll of Ecclesiastes 12 verse 7 says, "The dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." The spirit returns to God who gave it. It came from God, it goes back to God, and the life lived between, every moment, every breath, every day, was written in His book before any of it began. This is the hidden scroll version of the answer. Not biology, not chance, not accident. God, knowing, forming, sending, sustaining, receiving. Every baby that is born today, somewhere on this earth, in a hospital, in a village, in a tent, in a stone room, is a soul sent from the presence of God, arriving at the time He appointed, carrying the purpose He assigned, bearing the breath He breathed, living the days He wrote. Every birth is an act of God. Every baby is a heaven-sent soul. Every new life is eternity, stepping into time. That is where babies come from. If this revelation blessed you today, share it with a new parent. Share it with someone who has ever questioned whether their life has meaning. Share it with someone in their wilderness who needs to know they were not sent here by accident. Comment below, "I was known before I was born," as a declaration over your life. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so every time we unseal another hidden scroll of Scripture, you are the first to receive it. God bless you. I will see you in the next one.